Oh, Dave, hello.
Hi, Keith.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you very much.
Jolly good. So welcome to our new Ask the Experts. I don't know who came up with that and why we were picked.
Yeah, where are they?
Where are the experts? Exactly that. But this is our, we were doing our afternoon lives, and we realised that quite a few people have got jobs. Like, not everyone is like Tom Lloyd, who can sit there in the afternoon watching us on the screen.
Yeah.
So we decided that we were going to change it up and stop doing those and start doing them in the evenings when people have got a little bit more time to sit back and listen to experts or us talk. So that's the idea of these. So thanks for joining. We're going to have a topic each time that we do one of these. We're going to do them towards the end of the month. And the topic for today is all based around Everest Base Camp trips. We're in October. It's prime Everest Base Camp time. So we're going to have a look at that one today. And then we'll be told next time what the next topic will be. So what else is there? Obviously, everyone knows who the Bucket List Company is. You wouldn't be here if you didn't know who the Bucket List Company are. We are an adventure travel company. As many of you will know, we started off predominantly with trekking trips. But as time has moved on and we've wanted to keep our audience engaged, we've introduced more trips. And, some of those are our favourites, Dave, aren't they? Like Jordan's, yours, a little bit of trekking, but not constant trekking. So that's kind of what we do as a company. So we are there to help you tick off those important things on your bucket list. But today we are going to talk about Everest Base Camp. Obviously, one of the Nepal treks in generally, I think we should talk about, because there are plenty of treks in Nepal. And obviously it is a trekking haven. And it's one reason why lots of people this time of year head to Nepal. Obviously, two main seasons for Nepal. We've got the spring season and we've got the autumn season. Summer season out there, our summer is their monsoon season. So we try and stay away from that one. Which is your favourite season, Dave?
Oh, I love them both. You can't help it because it's just every time you go, the place is so different. I mean, it's a different culture, obviously, but the seasons are just so different, and you have different views and different conditions to walk in. Sometimes you can be in snow, and other times just glorious blue skies up. They're both great. Both great times.
What would you say the difference is between the two? I mean, obviously, from an Everest Base Camp perspective, if you want to see Everest Base Camp in its full glory, you're going to head there in the spring season.
Absolutely right. But if you want a trek that's probably more likely to be bright blue skies, really clear distances, then you're going to go later, aren't you? Because I found in the springtime that the weather can be cloudy, bit mixed, and not in the yet. When you get to base camp, you've got a whole drama of everybody there waiting to go up to Camp 1.
I think the other issue as well is like what we've sort of seen over the last few years, and I spoke about this on the podcast that went out today, and it was kind of an Everest Base Camp update, really, because there's been lots of problems again with flights and people being stuck. There's like the last. I mean, if Tom's watching this from his computer, he can put a link into the comments for a link to that podcast. And I talked about this for kind of 35 minutes on the podcast, and we're not going to go into that much detail with it today. But it's pretty boring, like listening to me for that amount of time. But over the last sort of week, there has been a huge backlog of people in Ramchap. Obviously, for anyone that doesn't know, then you used to fly from Kathmandu to Lukla. The Civil Aviation Authority in Nepal have stopped that because of the amount of traffic. And so now you have to go to Lukla. Now, obviously, everyone was aware about a month ago there was the flooding in Nepal, and it kind of destroyed quite a lot of the roads. And that's now led to it being a much longer drive to get to Ramchap. But it seems to be that the monsoon season is sort of getting slightly later. And the weather, I mean, like, you know, I've been going to going to do base camp treks for a long, long time. And it always used to be that, you know, beginning of October, prime trekking time, busiest time, weather was great. But it just seems to be that, you know, we were talking about this in the office about starting to look at pushing some of our trips back further into October, into the beginning of November, when the weather seems to stabilize a little bit. But like the other day, there was 1,100 people were flown from Ramchap to Lukla in a day. That's how many people were stuck. There was 68 planes took off from Ramchap to Lukla. Like, can you imagine that? That's 1,100 people all starting the journey at the same time.
How crowded that is.
Yeah. So there are some logistical issues with going to Everest Base Camp. Obviously, one of those is the flight to get to Lukla.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sort of saying to people now that if you are doing, so we're not just talking about Everest Base Camp here to fly into Lukla, because that's Mira Peak, Island Peak, Gokyo Lakes, Three Valleys Trek. They're all covered flying into Lukla. And my advice to people now is, if you are booking a trip, then you really need to be thinking of a contingency for a helicopter. Like, that is, you know, you've got to make sure that that is in your budget, I would say, wouldn't you?
I definitely would. It's, we've always said, I think this is quite a key issue as well. People want to go to base camp. They want to visit Nepal. Quite rightly, it's one of our favorite places. But we've always said from the very start, you do have to be flexible, because it's not England. It's not going to Bristol Airport. It's not going to Heathrow. It's a very different experience. So you have got to go with a mindset that I might be delayed days, and I'll have to be very, very patient. Now that's very recently has moved into this. Are we actually going to take off and get to Lukla?
Yeah, but you're stuck and you know, you then become, you know, obviously we do have a contingency either side of the trip. You know, we have started like, it's, you know, not having that free time in Kathmandu beforehand to start the journey early to give us the extra contingency at the end.
Yeah.
But you do need to make sure you have got that contingency within your program.
Well, we do,
because you know, we had a group this time, you know, stuck for 3 days in Ramchap. Luckily managed to fly out in a fixed wing, didn't need a helicopter, saved themselves some money there. But, you know, and they were one of the first groups to fly out in the morning. But obviously that then alters your trekking days, where you're planning on going. And that is the thing with adventure travel, isn't it? Is you have to think that it's not always going to go to plan.
We can have an itinerary, but it's the best laid plans never survive actual execution, because something happens always. And we have got contingencies. We know how to work around these things, but it does mean that the itinerary isn't quite as you thought it was going to be. You know, you're not going to be stopping at this place and spending a day, you know, enjoying it or hanging about. You're going to be moving on and trekking.
But it might be that you need to lose an acclimatization day as well.
Yeah, sure.
Like, you know, it might be that like we need to lose that day in Namche to crack on with the
that happened with me last time I went. Everybody got to the top, which was great. It was fine. You know, people were acclimatized, but it wasn't didn't have the luxury of an extra day.
Yeah. So I think please do put any questions that you've got as we're talking in the comments. We are not ignoring you. No. I am seeing the questions you are asking. In fact, the only ones I'm not seeing are the ones on Instagram, because that's not on my computer. So let me just talk about that. And if the question comes up, we'll either do a questions thing at the end where we'll go through them all, or we will pick the questions out if we're talking about those things. If that's why. There we go. I'm on there.
Very good.
So we got quite a few people watching us on.
That's excellent, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hello.
So Tess is asked, would you arrange a helicopter for us if needed? Yes, we would. That is what we are here to do. I have literally spent the most of October dealing with insurance companies or helicopters. So yes, that is there what we are there to do. And it's very interesting because our team on the ground in Nepal are so good.
Yeah.
And you know, we had it this year where we you know, we hadn't been stuck there for as long as some people have been stuck there. And all of a sudden, our guys are getting put onto an aeroplane, and we're flying out, and people are asking, "Well, why has that happened?" But you know, there are many different airlines that fly that trip. It isn't the same airline, so we always book with the same airline. We know the flight agent really well. And yeah, like,
and we bring a lot of custom.
Yeah.
So we get looked after. We get looked after. I say the group gets looked after.
But also as well though, like our local guides, like they know everybody.
Of course.
Like, but the one thing that I will say to people in Nepal is, like, we get so many, you know, you've run trips, I've run trips, you're sat there in the airport, people are saying nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. They're just sat there doing nothing. And it's just the Nepalese way, isn't it?
Yeah,
and I think you've really got to think about that. Like, and the other thing is as well in Nepal that, you know, you might get told something, and then 10 minutes later, you get told the helicopter's on its way. Be 10 minutes, and then you're like, that it was 20 minutes ago. Yeah, helicopter will be 30 minutes.
Yeah. No, this afternoon. It will come though. It will come,
but it will get sorted, and that's the thing, isn't it? I think is, you know, and people do struggle with that a little bit. And Paul's asked a question that if a heli's needed, would we need cash or can it be paid for on card? Generally, the way we do it is that the cost is covered, and then you would pay the local agent when you are back in Kathmandu. Is normally the way it's done. So they cover the cost of the helicopter, get it gone, like we'll just get it arranged, get it happening,
get on with the trek,
and then when we get back to Kathmandu, then we sort everything out from there.
Yeah, sure.
And that's the thing, like, obviously you have paid for your fixed wing flight, and if you can't get the fixed wing flight, then that money is then refunded, and you can put that against the cost of your helicopter. Now, a helicopter currently is about $2,500 plus VAT for 5 people. So a helicopter used to take 6, now takes 5, and your bags. But one thing to take into consideration is you're also going to need to cover the cost of the local guide as well within that. So if you are flying out, if there is 8 of you in the trip and there is 1 guide with you, you're going to need 2 helicopters. So you're going to pay for 10, even though you've only got 8, plus you've got to get the guide there as well. So just take that into consideration as well. So what about the trek itself, Dave? Like, if we look at Everest Base Camp, for example, like, what can people expect? How long is the trek? What advice would you give to people? Where are they staying? What are they eating?
Yeah, I think that's really important. One thing I'm going to start with is what everybody wants to ask me, and that's about, am I going to handle the altitude? And I think the key thing is about the Everest Base Camp and all of our treks, actually, it is that we do build in more acclimatization days than are needed. We might have to strip some out because of flights or whatever, but we do progress slowly. Everything is done very slowly, and certainly, I think I took 18 people last time. Everybody made it to the top, which to the base camp. People did feel the effects of altitude on the way, but they all made it because of the rate at which we go, and that can be a source of frustration as well, because some of the younger, perhaps fitter people at lower altitude think we're going too slowly. But actually, what we make sure happens is you train your body to walk at the pace you need to walk at to survive altitude, and we get people there. So that's the first thing I want to say. The second thing is I want to talk about, again, I always get asked about, is about food on the way. And the food very often is there are fixed menus, but we stay at certain places where you can get sausage and chips, sausage and mash, can't you?
Oh, sausage and mash.
Oh, perfect.
Shade is
Apple pie and custard, you know.
Yeah.
Oh dear, made in heaven. The food range and amount is, I think, fantastic. Nobody I've ever taken has ever complained about the amount or the quality of the food.
And like we always say, if you eat a lot, eat the dalbat.
Yeah, that's right.
You get fed an awful lot.
Yeah, dalbat is a local food. It's lentil and rice and various vegetable curry. And it's like a never-ending coffee pot. It just keeps coming and coming and coming and coming. So you can always fill up. And there's certain bucket lists I've taken away. I won't mention any names, but they can eat for England, and eat dalbat finishes them off. So there's plenty. If you're the big eater, there's plenty. If you are vegetarian, there is plenty. If you're an avid meat eater, then you won't be eating a lot of meat, or if you get above a certain altitude, mainly because that meat has been dragged up the mountain,
same as you've gone,
same as you have, on the back of a yak, you know, and it's been out in the sun and the rain or whatever. So we do recommend you become more vegetarian. Yes, there's plenty to eat. So that's food covered. That's
Tess has put here, she's gluten free. Would I need to take gluten free food with me, i.e., bread?
The bread definitely is full of gluten.
Yeah.
Everything is issue is everything is handmade, and they just take flour and they take water and they take a bit of yeast, and it's made in front of your eyes, kind of thing. So the Tibetan bread in the morning is made for you. So yes, if you want gluten-free bread, things like that, you would definitely need that.
But what other options would there be for like breakfast, for example?
Well, breakfast, I have omelette. I have cheese omelette quite often. That's lovely. There's all sorts of things. Garlic soup later on in the day, which I always get people addicted to. But
loads of eggs in there.
There's eggs and steamed vegetables and fried vegetables. Sometimes at lunchtimes, I'll just say, look, can I have a couple of fried eggs and some steamed vegetables, because that's just what I want. And out it comes, and the vegetables are picked straight off the side of the valley, you know, grown in yak dung, organic. You know, you couldn't get nearer to it. You know, there's some great food, honestly.
What about packing for Everest Base Camp? We're going on to our pro tips now. This is what we're going to ask the expert. What advice can you give people for packing?
Well, first of all, we've definitely got some really clear videos about that. I've done one for Annapurna, and Keith has done a number, I think, for Everest Base Camp.
Yeah.
But the one I've done for Annapurna, I think, is pretty good, and will cover you all bases. If you want some sort of pro tips, really, a couple of things that are right. One of the most important things is keeping your feet in good condition, because they are really going to carry you. So one of the things I like to do is when I'm packing in England is I turn my socks inside out. I've got medicated talcum powder, and I talcum powder the inside of my socks, turn them back, put them into pairs. That means when I put on a fresh pair of socks, they're not only fresh, they're powdered. You know, if it's a bit moist, damp outside, they're powdered. They're medicated. So if there's anything a bit sore or rubbing, that's taken care of. And I found my feet have never ever been a problem. And I've got old feet. You know, I was born with old feet, I think. But anyway, I've never been a problem. So powdering your socks, I think, is a really good tip. Another one that certainly a number of our women bucket listers have said to me is they take a metal water bottle, not an insulated one, it's a metal water bottle. And then when we get to a tea house, which is when we're getting higher up and it's getting colder, they ask for it to be filled with hot water, which will be their spoiled water, will be their drinking water the next day. But then they use it as a hot water bottle in a sleeping bag.
Yeah, I mean, Nalgene,
that brings comfort, doesn't it? And Nalgene the same.
And Nalgene can do the same.
Do the same, and so that there are ways of making yourself in quite austere conditions very comfortable. I think.
Yeah, just make sure you keep the lids done up.
Yeah.
And also as well, you want to put a sock in it, Tom, as well. You know, put it in a sock as well to make sure that it doesn't burn you.
Yeah, no, you don't want to get burned. You don't want to burn yourself, and you don't want to wet the bed. Those are the two key things.
Well, at your age, Dave, that's definitely true. The bed one.
I have to be very careful with that.
Tom's put a link in the comments to those packing videos. So if you and there's kit lists on on our website on the YouTube. So if you book a trip with us, then we've got our Vamoose app that comes with all of the information that you need, and we've kind of I think we cover it pretty well. I think
we're pretty good. There's another sort of health and safety tip. Not that I'm big on health and safety, particularly.
Hand day. We've been talking about
I always talk about carrying hand gel.
Do you?
Yeah, funny that. And no one gets sick on my trip, and I don't on yours either. I know, but hand gel I think is crucial. And actually, I try to make sure the group has got a discipline about it before they pick something up or whatever. There's lots of times where we're sharing food, because we want to. So there's that. What else was I going to say? I was going to say something about, sometimes, Nepal, you're walking on a day and it can be very cloudy because you're in the mountains and the weather changes a lot. It's crucial that you wear sunglasses all the time. Once you get above 3,000 meters, maybe a bit before, the ultraviolet is absolutely ramps up. And if you don't want cataracts in later life, and I haven't got them, and I've been doing this a long time, always wear your sunglasses, even if you think, it's a bit of a cloudy day, I don't want to wear them. But that's one thing I do bang on about that as well.
Yeah.
I found quite boring, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think my pro tip for Everest Base Camp is the buff. Not walking in the buff, but using a buff to keep over your nose. Like Everest Base Camp, Annapurna, any of the treks, super dusty. And there is the Khumbu Koth that just goes round groups like there is no tomorrow.
You do not want that.
And you certainly don't want it. And I've had it. It's not very nice. Like, you do really struggle when you get it. It's kind of a really deep sort of really sore. Gets in here. It's sore, and just having that buff or scarf or something. And it's the yaks, isn't it? That's what generally kicks it all up. Like you're trekking along the path and the yaks go past you, kick up all the dust, and then you're just taking it all in. So my piece, you have to wear it all the time. Like no. It's not always dusty, but to have it there, and if you see yaks or yaks are overtaking you or they're coming towards you, you can literally just cover it up. And I think that's my pro tip.
I build on that actually, because I always say to my group, watch what our in-country lead head guide does, and invariably
if you kit out, walk at the back.
First thing in the morning, they cover their faces. When that air is very, very dry and very, very cold, you've been in head down in your sleeping bag, staying quite moist and warm, and all the rest of it, and you walk out in that, and then you're working hard and breathing deeply. That's when you can start the sore throat, which will actually then the dust later on will give you the Khumbu Koth. So one of the things I say is watch your local head guide, and invariably till about 11 in the morning they've got their face covered on a particularly higher up, thin air, cold air, very dry. It doesn't do you any good. So you just want to keep that face covered up just till then. And then after that, it's just as Keith said, it's when there's something dusty happens on base camp.
So we're going to be moving on in a minute to cover off any questions. So if you've got any questions, please start putting them in the comments, because we're going to go through a live Q&A in a minute. We are live. We are here. This isn't pre-recorded.
No.
So if you've got any questions, please do put them in the comments and we will get round to answering them.
It's not strictly come dancing that we have to pretend it's Sunday or Saturday. Yeah.
We did this last week.
Yeah. I danced in this yesterday, but
Just before we move on, Dave, is Everest Base Camp hard?
Is it hard? It's doable. It's Everest. A bit boring about this. It is all a mind game, really. If you want to go there and you determined to go there, and I have to say this, some people find this uncomfortable. Listen to what we say or advise, and you just do it. You will get there. You will get there. People with disabilities, perhaps even mentally not confident. we will get you there. We'll help you all the way and give you the right advice that you need. Only you can do it, obviously, but absolutely, it will be probably might be the hardest thing you've ever done, but you can do it because you want to do it, and it is really like eating an elephant, just a mouthful at a time. You just take a step at a time. And I've had people say to me when I said you just put one foot in front of the other, laugh at me, and then when they've come back, they say, "Hey, Dave, you were right. You were so right. When it was getting hard, I just thought one foot in front of the other, and they make it."
And I think the thing as well is like it is a long trek, and I think people need to
Day after day.
I mean, we spoke about this earlier, Dave, didn't we? Like, you know, I mean, I've had lots of conversations about this week with people, and on the way up, don't think about Everest Base Camp. Think about it on a day-by-day basis, and what am I going to do
step by step?
And because otherwise, like the goal, the goal is Everest Base Camp, but that's not necessarily the journey, is it?
No.
And each day is very special and very different.
They are.
You know, get into the Tengboche Monastery, go into the memorial, wandering around the streets in Namche. Like, don't just think the only reason I'm on this trip is to get to Everest Base Camp, because I think actually you'll be disappointed when you get there, but that's not the.
Well, you'll miss so much on the way, absorbing what's going on.
And I think the other thing that I will say to people is, and you know, doing this job as a tour leader and taking people away on trips, the thing I always say this to new tour leaders as well, is the hardest thing about an Everest Base Camp trek is motivating a group to get back down again. It's not about the hard bit of getting them to Everest Base Camp. It's keeping them motivated to actually get back to the end.
To get home again. Now.
Like, and you know, I think people really need to be aware of that before they go on the trip, because you've still got 4 days to walk back down again.
You have.
And don't get me wrong, like I get it. Like people get euphoria when they've reached base camp, but they get that I've finished now.
That's it.
I'm done. I now want to be back in a hotel having a beer in a hot shower. Like that's why have I got to walk 4 days? Like it's almost like we've surprised them with it. It's like,
yes.
Well, this was never on the itinerary.
Like, I'm back. That's how it
works.
works.
And you know, Kilimanjaro or Mount Toubkal is different, isn't it? You're back down very quickly.
Yeah, but it's not days to get back to a place where you can then get back to where you started.
Yeah, and it's another. You've got 65 kilometers to walk to get to the finish point. Like that's so. Make sure you don't forget that when you're thinking of booking this trip.
Yeah. It's part of the package coming home.
Exactly that. So we're going to move on to the live Q&A section now. So if you've got any questions, we are going to run through them. These don't have to be about Everest. We can answer questions on any of our trips.
Motorcycle maintenance.
So Gareth started off today. Are you launching a trip to one of the stands? There is things in the background for the stands. We've had a few people go and do fam trips and go and have a look and a bit of exploration. Tom, who's posted in this group, he's been out and had a look at it, and then you've been. Yeah. So yes, it is on the agenda. So keep your eyes peeled. If you might have seen, we did launch a new trip today. So we are launching new trips all the time, and I'm going to come on to that one a little bit later. Paul's asked, I'm booked on to EBC Island Peak. What temperatures can I expect on summit night on Island Peak? Is it similar to Kili? What layering system would you suggest? Now, I would say potentially it could be a little bit colder than Kili. Yeah. And layering system wise, I would say, you know, what you wore for summit night on Kili is going to be adequate. Obviously your boots are going to change probably from what you wore on Kili. You're going to want to go for a more mountaineer style boot than what you wore.
But you can rent those, can't you?
You can rent those. You don't, you know, if you haven't got a pair, if you're never going to need them again, then you don't need to. You can get them when you're out there. You're only going to be wearing them like on one night to get up from high camp up to the summit. So, but yeah. We can, if you want to speak about that, we can speak about that.
Mountaineering socks, obviously, proper mountaineering socks.
Yeah, obviously thicker gloves.
Smart wool, something like that's really,
Yeah.
really good.
But obviously down mitts.
Yeah, of
Obviously
course.
you need to be able to use your hands. You're going to be on the ropes. So yeah, think about your gloves, how you're going to, obviously you're going to want 2 pairs of gloves. You know, if you need to take your thicker ones off to do something, you still need to keep those hands covered as well at that point. Tess Suzawa asked a few questions. We're going to book EBC to do next October. Brilliant. Give us a shout when you're ready to go. Then what else have we got on here? We've got Nat asked a question, hopefully quick. Sahara Trek, do I need anti-malarial? No, you don't need anti-malarial for the Sahara Trek. Definitely not.
Lovely trek.
Should we buy, Tess has asked again, should we buy a sleeping bag before and take with us or hire when we get there? 50-50.
EBC?
Yeah.
Oh, there's great sleeping bags you can hire.
Yeah. I think it depends
if
what else.
If you're going to do more trips, buy a good sleeping bag.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But if you're only going to ever use it once, EBC is the only thing you do.
Yeah. But what don't do is buy a cheap, heavy sleeping bag. Do not do that. You definitely want, if you're going to be doing a long trek, you want a nice light sleeping bag, that one that's going to make you loft well and make you warm, not some heavy great thing that's going to be awkward.
Well, I mean, we didn't cover that, did we? Obviously, you have got a weight limit on the planes.
Yeah, sure.
We forgot to say that earlier on. So you're only allowed 15 kilos between your day pack and your duffel bag.
Yeah.
So obviously, we've talked about this a lot. I think there is a video on sleeping bags. I think as well, blog post on them.
I use a 3. People say, do I need a 4 season? I think that's overkill for EBC. You need a 3 season, and if you've got a silk liner as well, you'll be warm as toast. Put a warm hat on your head, you're fine.
And there's generally blankets.
Yeah, there are blankets anyway. You can pull over the top.
We always advise not to sleep just with the blanket.
No.
They've probably not been washed as regularly as you want, but
the yak will need them next day.
Just to put on over your sleeping bag is fine.
Yeah.
So, Paul's asked, I've got a Rab Ascent 500 with a -5 comfort rating. Is that sufficient for Island Peak in April? Now, the one thing I will say to you is you're going to be there for one night. That's one, maybe 2, depending on high camp, what you're doing. I would advise, mats are provided, but I would potentially advise if you've got an inflatable down mat, then they're really good. Add more insulation. Obviously, you're going to be dressed up. If you're cold, you can add layers on. So
put your down jacket on and just one night.
Yeah, it's one night. Ted has asked, is there warm showers or do you need to manage without one for quite a few days?
There are warm showers. Yeah, there are warm showers. Not when you get to the top, near the top. But
up to Dingbyshay.
Up to Dingbyshay, yeah. I mean, you might have a couple of days, 2, max 3 days. But I mean, that's what wet wipes are invented for, really. Yeah. Biodegradable wet wipes.
You generally need to pay for the showers higher up.
They
are gas. They are gas boilers.
Yeah.
Showers. They normally cost a couple of quid. Further down, you might get a free one. You might get an ensuite in some of them.
Have you ever had that?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
When you're the boss, it's it's a different trip,
People have them. Like Monjo, or you had a.
Of course I did. Yeah, of course.
I mean, it's been a sad week this week, actually, and we could talk about the Mike Downing story, can we?
Oh yes,
but it's a very sad week. A very, very good friend of ours, Ram, who owns one of the lodges in Dingbyshay. His wife unfortunately passed away this week, so we're really sorry, Ram. We know, and anyone that's been trekking with us, been to Dingbyshay, you would have stayed in Ram's lodge in Dingbyshay, and you would have met his lovely wife, who used to count the chips out to make sure you only had a certain amount of chips.
She was the business manager.
She was definitely the business manager.
Definitely.
It's our thoughts do go out to you, Ram. But the Mike Downing story is very funny, and Ram is the loveliest guy you will ever meet, and
so generous.
It's so generous, and you had to pay for a shower at Ram.
You do,
and Ram would always come up to me and he'd be like, Keith, come over here, Keith, and he put the key in my pocket so she didn't see it. And then like I'd go off and have a shower and come back and sneak the key back to Ram. And then when we'd go off in the morning on a trek, he would come up and he would slide a bottle of Coke
or Mars bar or Snickers or something to your pocket.
And I said to him, I was like, I think I was out earlier on in the season. I think I did the April one. You were doing your first October one.
Yeah.
And I said to Ram, I was like, Ram, I'm not coming out in October this year. Dave's doing EBC. I was doing something else. And I said, make sure you look after Dave.
Yeah,
and he did. Okay. So you can tell the story now.
Well, anyway, so we get there, and I took with me a great guy, Mike Downing, American famous climber actually, and he was
guiding as well.
He was guiding with me. Yeah, he was my assistant, but we did it as a partnership. I always tend to do stuff like that. Anyway, so we were working together, and I went to the count, and Ram was there, and he looked at me and he said, "You want a shower? You want a shower?" Because his wife had gone off into the kitchen. I said, "Oh yes, please. That would be nice." So I got slipped the key, and I went out and had a shower. And anyway, so I came out of the shower. Mike was there, and Mike said, I'm going to go in now. So I said, well, Ram says it's okay. It's okay. Mike goes in. I only managed to get to my room and I heard, you pay. And Ram's wife had spotted Mike going to the shower, gone in, dragged him out. Mike was stripped for the shower, dragged him out. You pay. And Mike was clutching, trying to cover himself up with a paper towel.
Very small paper towel.
Yeah. And anyway, poor Mike. And so he came out all still soaked up. She had him out of the shower. And okay, I pay. Now, you pay now. So poor Mike put a towel on, had to go and pay, then go wash the soap off. Oh dear.
I remember you telling me that story.
Mike knows it.
And then Lindsay Allen's put, super important question. Can you please stop adding more trips that I have to book on?
Yeah.
We just won't tell you about them, Lindsay. It's fine.
No. Get jealous.
And Lindsay can highly recommend Gokyo Lakes for the way back down. Now, obviously, we've talked about Everest Base Camp.
Yeah.
Everest Base Camp is an up and back trek.
Yeah.
13-day trek. It works out to be about an 18-day trip. You can also add on the Gokyo Lakes, which is super stunning. But it adds another 3 days onto the trek and 3 days onto the trip.
Yeah, so. And I think if anybody's thinking of booking that, just bear in mind what we said earlier about getting to base camp and then I'm tired, my adrenaline's all gone. I want to get home.
Because you've got to go again.
Now you've got to go again, even higher. So you really have to be determined if you want to do it, but it is absolutely repays you many times.
Then Tessa's asked, what are the toilets like?
That's interesting. Well, there's a mixture of European, and a bit later on, there's often a choice. But if somebody's in the European, then you've got no choice, have you?
Yeah.
And it's a hole in the ground, I'm afraid.
Well, I mean, as well, I think like if you tend to stick to the tea houses, then the toilets are pretty clean.
Yeah, they're clean.
They're
clean.
They're fine.
They're clean. They might look cronky, but they're clean.
Yeah. But on the trail, sometimes there is occasionally a wooden shed, isn't there?
Yeah, which is just 2 planks, really.
And they generally need to, unless you're desperate.
No, you're better off finding a rock somewhere if you can.
It's a bit easier for
us. And a Perna you can. I think that every space camp, because of the trail, it's very difficult to actually get off.
Yeah. What's the longest day of trekking? Is it the EBC day?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, I mean, I would say in terms of distance, no, because coming back down is longer. Obviously, you're covering more distance on the way back down.
Yeah,
and I think that's the other thing with Everest Base Camp that you need to highlight is the fact that Everest Base Camp is Nepali flat. There's a little bit of up and a little bit of down, and it doesn't matter if you're on your way to base camp or you're on your way back.
Yeah. You're going down, but you're going up and down.
I mean, many people forget this, and like you land in Lukla and you're super excited, you're starting the trek and you start walking, but for the first hour and a half, you're walking downhill.
Fast too, because everyone's excited.
You
can't hold them back.
But you're walking downhill.
To the valley.
And on the way back, you kind of like remind people, like, can you remember when we first started this trek? And they suddenly you see the Dreadnoughts,
yeah.
and they're like, oh my god, and they just
An hour and a half down, but 3 hours back up.
Yeah. So, like, it doesn't matter if you're going up or down, but yeah, I would say the hardest day is the EBC day.
Yeah.
But there are a few hard days, like Tengbashay Day is a lovely day to start with. It's quite flat as you
go down. Beautiful.
And then you've got that steep three hours of up, and then likewise coming back down when you get to come up to Tengbashay. That's quite a steep, but long days are on the way back down. But I would say the hardest day is Lobashay, Gorikshep.
Yeah, because you stop at Gorikshep, you have a bit of something to eat, and then you go out onto the moraine. And every space camp isn't just down there. You've got to work your way up the moraine and then across.
Paul's asked, will the TBLC guide help us pick out the hired mountaineer in Kitwin and Nepal? Yeah, they certainly will. But more importantly, your local guides that are with you as well.
Yeah, and they'll get you the bargains as well.
Like, they'll know.
They'll negotiate really well for you.
They know where to go. And also as well, like generally, Paul, like what we do is we almost pre-book that before we go. So the office will contact you, ask you if there's any kit you need. We can then at least make sure that
it's available.
It's available for when you get there.
Yeah,
so it will be pre-booked
definitely
as well. Paul's also asked, do you know the UK guide for EBC and Island Peak? No, we've got that conversation to happen within the next couple of weeks of who's doing what trips and everything. So that will all be out pretty soon and we'll know who's doing what. I mean, we know there's several trips. We know which ones we're doing next year, but we haven't kind of bolted down all of the details yet for everyone. We've all kind of had our first pick of which trips we want, but there's still a few that are missing. We'll come back to questions at the end. We've gone through the list, and that's everybody. That's all.
That's all.
I've answered all the questions that were in the list. But if you think of anything else, we'll answer them still at the end. Don't worry. So we'll move on now to upcoming adventures, which Tom's asked me to mention our Best of Bhutan trip, which we launched today. And that's been on my list for a long time.
Keith, when we first started doing this together, you gave me this book and it was the Bhutan book. And I said, we've got to do this. How many years ago was that?
A long time.
Finally, it's there. And what a fabulous trip.
Oh. Well, and interestingly as well, like I didn't expect to have the response that we had this morning. So we launched it to the priority list this morning. If you're on our email list, you would have had the opportunity to join the priority list. Yeah. We launched at 8 o'clock, 16 spaces. We'd sold out in 23 minutes. Like, and
it's a special trip though. It's so special.
But we had people emailing us in going, I can't believe I've missed out. You've never sold out this quickly before. I was just about to log in. I can't buy it. And we just felt so sorry for people. And also I felt a little bit sorry for Dave as well, because obviously he wasn't coming to Bhutan because I was going.
Yeah. As ever.
And so I just suddenly thought to myself, do you know what? For Dave's retirement present, I will.
Oh, that's news. That's breaking news.
Yeah.
On the internet.
For 2027, as Dave retires at the age of 83, he can go to Bhutan. So we better launch another trip. So
off the tiger's nest.
The answer to that question is we do still have spaces on our Bhutan trip, and Tom is put a link into
the second trip. Is this
into the comments? And Tom's got, you talk about the tiger's nest. There's a picture of tiger's nest there.
Isn't it fabulous? Isn't it?
So we are, we have got this new trip, 12-day trip to Bhutan. We've put together, I think, an amazing itinerary. And actually, this is a Trailblazer trip. And for anyone new that doesn't know about our Trailblazers, the idea is it's the first trips we run is always a Trailblazer trip. And the idea is that we go out to test the itinerary and take live guinea pigs with us.
Yeah.
And then obviously if there's any tweaks that need to be made, then we kind of can do it with the group. We very rarely need to make any tweaks.
No, but we can't guarantee it's going to be absolutely perfect because it's the first time we've run it.
Yeah.
So that's why we just trying to do it in partnership, really. So we just get it absolutely right.
And I will say that with the Trailblazer trips, we run them pretty much at cost price. So the idea is not it's let's test this. You get out there, you have a slightly cheaper trip. And like the comments that I've had from people that obviously, people do their research, don't they? They have a look round, they look at what other companies are charging. And ours is super, super reasonably priced, I would say. Like, normally you'd be looking at like 5,000 plus flights to go to Bhutan.
I know. It's a special place to go, isn't it?
This trip's coming in at like 3.3. Like, if you want to go to Bhutan and it's on your list, like, you're probably never going to get the opportunity to get it this cheap again, I would say. So if you're looking for a group trip to Bhutan, link is in the notes in the comments. Go and have a look at the itinerary. There are still some spaces on the second date. There's a promotion on this week, or this month, sorry, for wildlife trips, whether that's safaris or gorilla trekking. There's an offer on those trips at the minute. We ran our competition at the start of the month to win a safari. That was won by a very excited person. I saw the email come back in from them who were like, I've never won anything. It's like, is this true?
I know, what a trip.
And I think, a lot of people think like, it's always the same, isn't it? Like, oh, it's a con. Like, but actually somebody does always win our trips. Funnily enough, not everyone accepts them and takes them, which is always
that's a bit odd, isn't it? Yeah,
but someone does always win it. We do always know.
Yeah, we always tell them.
Like I remember we had one. This was at the start of the year. We had a competition where a guy, we told them that they had won, and he emailed back and went, well, thanks, but I don't really want to go there. I want to go there instead. And it's like, well, no, that's not the competition. Like, you can't. So, and
I can prove it's not a fix because
you had Jason.
No. My nieces, I always send them the link, and they enter for it. And I tell Keith, look, my nieces have entered. They never get picked. So it's not a fix, I promise you.
No, exactly that. And then obviously November is all about Black Friday. Like, there will be a Black Friday offer. I can't give any more information on it yet, but there will be a Black Friday offer. That's always in part of our diary. There we are, Lindsay Allen. That gives you another opportunity to
get upset
and book another trip. And then obviously, I've got a reminder here of how do people book our trips. Obviously, you can go onto our website.
Yeah.
And you choose the date you want. Obviously, we run two different styles of trips now. We run our bucket list of trips and we run our bucket list of plus trips. Our bucket list of trips are trips without a UK guide. Our bucket list of plus trips are trips with a UK guide, and we will also arrange your flights so we can travel together as a group. On a bucket list trip, you need to sort your own flights out. You can book your transfers, or you just make your way to the starting hotel, and we give you all of that information. And at the same time, you can pay for your trips monthly. That was our kind of unique selling point at the start. Plenty of people have copied it since.
I know.
But that's, I wanted to be able to offer these amazing trips. And this is again a reason why I didn't say let's go to Bhutan next year, because it's an expensive trip. Like, when you add the flights in and everything, it still is an expensive trip. And I wanted to make trips accessible for as many people as possible. And obviously, in this day and age, most people are used to subscriptions. Like, you all pay your Netflix or you do that.
Jim.
Quite a lot of people say, "What's the interest charge?" And that there is no interest charge. It's not a finance agreement. We kind of just make it a little bit easier by saying, there's 20 months between by the time you book your trip and
the money's secure, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think that's an important thing to say.
So that's how you can book your trip with us. Tess has asked another question of how much cash should she take, thinking about EBC, showers, charging phones, tipping. Well, firstly, we're tipping. Our tipping policy for every trip, and obviously they vary depending on duration, etc. When you get your Vamoose app, each trip has a tipping policy in it. EBC is, I can't remember, $150 maybe, something like that.
Yeah.
For EBC, charging phones,
charging phones. Now, yes, EBC, you might have to pay a little bit, like £1 or something, to charge your phone. The Annapurna Trek, I know on that one, you charge it for free, basically.
EBC
and very often, this is a tip, where we stop, certainly something like Namche, go into a cafe and buy a coffee, you charge your phone.
Yeah.
So it's all free.
And unfortunately, I've lost it. And I think I left it in Gozo. But obviously, take a battery pack with you is always a good idea.
Yeah.
A lot of the tea houses are on solar power, which is why they charge, because higher up, they haven't got mains connection. So they're relying on their battery. So they don't want everyone plugging everything in. There are some battery packs out there take like 14 hours to fully charge.
Yeah.
But I got one that's a big battery pack, but it charges within like an hour and a half. So like, I mean, I didn't go into the cafe. I would generally go into the Irish bar. They seem to have more plug sockets.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Like, but you can go in there as long as you're having like
good excuse,
it's a very good excuse. But as long as you're having a coffee or a pint or whatever,
or two,
you can charge your phone in the.
Yeah.
I know someone. I can't think who it was now, but someone designed because obviously there are no plug sockets in the rooms, are there?
No.
So they designed a thing that they unscrewed the light
Took the bulb out.
And then made it so they could recharge their battery pack overnight.
Yeah.
I wouldn't advise that though,
No.
because the electrics aren't the best.
No.
Showers, a couple of quid.
Yeah.
Obviously, all your meals are paid for. If you're booking a bucket list trip, we cover 3 meals a day. And I will say that if you're not on a bucket list trip, just see how they're doing the food, because actually one of the biggest issues I see from other groups is them having to pay for their meals,
getting a bill.
And the trouble is, if you've got a group of 10 people, you all go in and order it. They then bring a bill out. They don't bring an individual bill out. They bring a table bill out. So you then end up having to now split a bill. Someone wants their
every day, and
3 times a day. I need 15 pence change. I've paid too much.
Yeah.
Like, that's not how we do it.
No.
So we don't do that. So all your bills. So it would just really be snacks, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You could buy Coke, you could buy out-of-date Pringles, you could buy
Pringles you get anywhere in the world. I found that out.
Anyway. Can you remember the time when we went back after COVID? And of course, they had no one there for 2 years, so everything in the shop
was 2 years old.
Was 2 years old and out of date, but
still tasted good.
Yeah, it was still fine. So I would always say, there are cash machines in Namche. I wouldn't rely on them. You can still, in some places, you can spend in card, like in Namche. If you're in some of like the bigger souvenir shops, they'll take card payments. But I always say to have enough cash with you. I would always say if you're going to Nepal, take UK pounds because they will change.
Just change once.
Well, I think if you take pounds, it doesn't really matter, does it?
No,
because
you just take it and that's how you change it once. But if some people don't know, change to dollars and then change dollars to pounds. And once you start doing that,
you're just losing
money.
So take pounds, and then you can change some money up before you go, and obviously you'll be coming back to Kathmandu, and then you can also change when you get back as well. So hopefully that answers that question, Tess, on how much. I would say if you started the trek off with like £300-400 worth of that includes tips as well, though.
Yeah. So if you put tips in that, and the other thing is, on the trek itself, you're not going to be buying tons of stuff because you're going to be walking you've got
to fly it back.
You've got to fly it back. The whole thing doesn't work really. You're going to spend it in Kathmandu. Kathmandu, you can put your card in a machine and take out cash. So you haven't got to carry tons of stuff. The only thing you really need is about £50 worth, I think, for drinks and whatever. Unless you're going to spend a lot on in Namche or somewhere like that, and your tips, and just make sure put those tips to one side, then that's fine. Because you do end up before you get on the plane at Lukla. That's when the guides, the extra guides, and the porters will leave you, and they make their way home. Sometimes walking for 2 or 3 days. So you do have to make sure you've got the tips with you on the actual.
And you can pay that. You can pay that in pounds. You can pay that in rupees. You can pay it in dollars.
Whatever. equivalent.
But and it's also worth having a bit of a contingency as well.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if you injure your leg and you need to hire a horse, for example, to get you down, like it is worth just having a bit of extra for a contingency. But you could keep that in pounds. Like they will.
Yeah, they'll take it. They'll take it.
Like,
so the horse people will, sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Bitcoins.
Is that what you get rid of yours? Is it?
Yeah, that's right.
We spoke about that we were going to try and keep this within an hour, and we are nearly within the hour. We've done 57 minutes of talking rubbish.
Yeah, I know.
As non-experts,
we could do it for England, you know.
We've done all right here. So if there are no other questions, if you've got any questions, quickly stick them in the comments now, and we will answer them. If you're watching this at a later date, we still review them.
Yeah.
Someone will jump on and answer those questions for you. So if you suddenly think, oh, I'm going to start asking this question now, or this isn't live anymore, I can't ask a question, the comments stay there. Elliot Hill, are any jobs going? Not for you, sir.
No. We do want a population explosion in these foreign countries.
What are you saying?
I know. Well, ask Elliot.
But thank you ever so much for everybody's laughing away.
I can see that.
Thank you ever so much for everyone for coming on and watching these first ones. If it's been useful, please just say it's been useful, because we don't want to bore people.
No,
but if you
you
think
don't want to waste your time.
If you found something, if you found it useful or whatever, then it would be great to know. So it would kind of make us want to keep doing them again and again and again. Obviously, please make sure you follow us on socials, because that's where we put our offers. Everything's on there. And I'm sure Tom will jump on in a second and put a link to the Facebook and the Instagram and the TikTok. Obviously, hi Andy Mitchell, how are you?
Hi Andy.
If you obviously the podcast is there is over 115 or something episodes, like 120 episodes maybe now on there, where we cover everything from most of our trips. Like I've done quite a few with Dave, with Jake, with our guides, with people who have been on the trips. So if you go on to the podcast and type in Everest Base Camp or Nepal, it will come up with all of the episodes that we've done on there. New podcast comes out every Wednesday. So if you subscribe to the podcast, you will automatically get updated that a new episode has come out.
YouTube as well. Lots of really helpful stuff on YouTube about what you're going to experience or how to prepare for all of our trips, actually, not just Nepal.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully, again, there'll be another update on getting to Ramchap Airport. Hopefully the drive's going to get less. But yeah. And then I think, go onto the website, have a look at the trips, see what it is you want to do. If Everest Base Camp is on your bucket list, if Gokyo Lakes is on your bucket list, go and have a look. Annapurna. And I mean, we didn't really get a chance to talk about Annapurna today, Dave, but I know a lot of people last week at Ramchap were turning around and driving.
Went to Annapurna instead. Yeah, they did. And they won't be disappointed, are they?
No, they won't be disappointed. I think if I had known that there were 1,100 people going to be walking with me, but it is as it is. You booked it.
Yeah, and people have expectations,
and they do have expectations. And I think that is the topic of this live, really, and it is like my final piece of advice to people is do your research, find out as much as you can about it. Go in there with sort of a reasonable expectation of
eyes wide open. Really. That's what you need. And it's not going to go like ball bearings on butter. It won't be like that. It's because Nepal is not like that, but that's the beauty of it as well. When you look back on it, you just think, oh, fantastic.
And this isn't your Jet 2 holiday.
No.
To Benidorm, is it, where your transfer's parked outside and
and equally, it's not. I'm sitting on the settee. I look at Instagram. Oh, Everest Base Camp looks nice. I think I'll do that. It's not that kind of trip either. You really got to know what you're going into, but it's definitely doable and so rewarding.
And I think it's just a case of understanding, the walk up, the walk down, just setting
day after day.
Karen said, listen to the podcast on my commute just keeps giving me new places to add to my list.
Good.
Well, I mean, it's there to kind of try and help people, and that's what we're trying to do with the podcast. And the more people that listen to it, the better. I think if you can get used to my North Devon or Devonshire tones, I think that's
Is it North Devon?
Well, I think if I move from South Devon to North Devon,
there's a touch of the Janner, I think.
Little the Janner in there.
You can't help it, Keith.
No, I know. Karen says she needs a lottery win, don't we all?
Yes, yeah, sure.
I think if I had a lottery win, though, I'd still do this. I think
I'd still be doing this.
Yeah,
definite, sure.
Yeah,
just more of it.
More of it, exactly that. Okay, if there are no other questions, we've gone over our hour. Right. Dave, thanks ever so much for coming on today. Excuse me. We'll be back in a month's time with another one. But I think Tom is going to leave us with the Everest Base Camp video, just to, as we've spoken about it, just so you can see it. So thanks ever so much, everyone. It's been great, chatting, and thanks for all your questions. That really does make it more interactive.
This is fantastic.
And that's what we wanted, hence why we moved it away from lunch times when it's just Tom Lloyd sandwich.
Yeah, it's past my bedtime though.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thanks, everyone. We'll be back soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.